Hi, Ryan, and welcome back to another episode of Grassroots Racer. I can't believe I'm already saying we're halfway through the year and I've already spoken to some awesome grassroots racers. But for some of you who might have seen, I was actually at Calder Park last Friday and it was pretty cool to go back on such an iconic track, which I've always driven past when I was going go-karting into Melbourne. And I've always thought to myself, I want to drive there one day. So, you know, to get my dream come true, I was so happy. And yeah, I can't thank Mum enough for driving me up to Calder and the boys at Dream Racing for looking after me, just while we were there. And look, we honestly had so much fun out there. We discovered a few issues which will definitely be fixed before next round. And I honestly think that we will hopefully go on to do better results in Formula V. Obviously, coming off Phillip Island, our best result was P8. So we can only look to stay there and improve because I know you guys have been following me and we really want some good results. So I can promise you that hopefully it's coming soon. Then on the weekend, on Saturday, the day after, we went to one of my partners, Hip Pocket Workwear in Golden Square, to celebrate their 1 year anniversary as the new owners of the business. And we had a look at their end of financial year sales. So I took the car down to the store, which was a lot of fun. And thanks to everyone who came past as well to come see the car. If you're in the Bendigo area, make sure you swing by, look at all the workwear, just, from the boots to the clothes, anything. And they also do custom embroidery. Tonight's show is a mix of highlights from people I've spoken to this year. My first guest, Warren Luff, and my 100th episode was Greg Rust. And all my other guests who compete in speedway, circuit racing, and even Aaron Seton, who is currently competing in Super 2. So sit back and enjoy the show. Comment by letting me know what you like, what you'd like to see more of, and subscribe if you haven't already. Remember, guys, drive fast, take chances. Enjoy these half-year highlights.
Definitely. And what's the best bit of advice you'd give to young drivers or new drivers starting out in motorsport who would like to compete in cars?
Look, the biggest bit of advice that I give anyone is to enjoy the journey because you don't know when it's going to stop. There's been plenty of guys in our sport, both here and overseas, that have had amazing ability, but for one reason or another, the journey just hasn't sort of panned out the way that they would have ultimately liked them to. So, yes, you've got to set yourself goals and you've got to look to the future as to, okay, this is where I want to end up, but there's no guarantees. So my advice is enjoy the journey, enjoy it for what it is that you're doing right here and now, because it might not pan out ultimately how you want. I think some people sometimes can be maybe a little bit guilty of focusing on what they want to do next rather than focus on the category that they're doing now. You've got to do each step along the way. You can't sort of get lost focusing on what's going to happen next. Focus on the now, enjoy the now, because it's as I said, there's no guarantees.
Well, you currently do race in the E30 category. What do you like most about racing?
The cars are amazing. I mean, compared to anything else I've ever driven, they're something else that they handle so well. Like I started at the back last round. I was side by side with every car during that race at one point, and I only had minor contact, which was probably my fault. But other than that, it was hard, like 3 wide around Siberia and no contact. So there's super tight racing and there's no contact, and the cars are amazing.
Yeah, and did you help build your car or did you buy it ready to go?
Well, that was Dad's old race car that he raced 15 years ago in E30s. So, yeah, we took it out of retirement. Dad and I did everything on it. It was completely stripped. There's nothing left to it. And, yeah, we painted it all, did it all ourselves.
Yeah, that's pretty cool.
If you could go back and talk to your 16-year-old self, what advice would you give?
That's a great question. Great question. Well done. So when I talked to you at the very beginning of this about, working in banking and finance and then having the chance to go off and do some broadcasting and so on. And at the time, both my dad ran a hydraulic company. He was general manager of a hydraulic company with about 60 staff. And my grandfather was in the rag trade or clothing trade. He used to go around the world acquiring cloth for a clothing company. So we would always love the tales that he would have when he would come back from overseas, having been somewhere. So they were both in business, right? And I thought there would be big pressure of sorts on me to do something similar. So when I said that I wanted to get out of banking and finance and go and have a crack at this media thing, which I had never really expressed an interest in high school, I thought they would hit the roof. And they couldn't have been more supportive, right? So I can vividly remember my father telling me, there might be hard yards in this where you're trying to scrape together money and what have you, and going from job to job. And he said, but you have to give this a real, honest, hard-working shot. At least 2 years. See if you can make a crack out of it for 2 years. And at the time, mate, Lee Diffie and I were, and we talk. Diff, as you know, commentates IndyCar and has done some amazing things in America. We're great mates and still are to this day. And we were both climbing that ladder together and doing the hard yards. He was a school teacher before he became a commentator. And the most important thing for both of us, mate, was having a go, backing yourself, giving it a real proper shot. And I'm a huge believer in that. So that would be the thing I would tell myself, not to be afraid, to get out there and have a go. My own kids now, I have teenage kids, and it probably sounds a bit cliched, but I talk to them about chasing their dream too, mate. I think it's super important, and doing something that your heart is in. You've got to be properly in it and passionate about it. And I would probably tell my 16-year-old self to not be afraid, to roll the dice and have a go and chase what you love and chase it with all your might. Yeah.
Oh, thanks so much, Rusty. I know you're a very busy person, and it really does mean a lot to me that you've found some spare time to come talk to me tonight. Thanks so much for some of the stories that you've shared about your motorsport journey. I feel very privileged to have such a respected person in the motorsport industry on my show.
Pleasure, mate.
Yeah, I really do wish you all the best for this year ahead, and I look forward to see what you get up to. And I hope one day you'll interview me when I get a bit more experience. And yeah, I think you've made it if Rusty's interviewing you. So thanks so much, mate.
Well, you turned the tables on me, mate. So it was you interviewing me. I love the fact that you're doing some racing. I that feeling, that sense of joy you get, Ayrton, from being behind the wheel. There is very little in life that will ever surpass that. Over time, my work has afforded me the chance to drive a few cool cars. I don't drive them like the pros do, but it gave me a sense of what their world is like, and that is a hugely special feeling, mate. So enjoy that, chase that, get after that. And what you're doing here with the podcast has all sorts of benefits for your partners and for your growth as a as a sports person or a broadcaster, whatever you choose to do. So go get them. Thank you very much for having me on. Stay in touch, and I hope you have a fantastic year in 2023.
That's all right. And for those who don't know, can you share a bit of your family history and what it was like growing up around boats and engines, being built your whole life?
I suppose it's one of those things I haven't been able to escape it. I spent my whole life around this sort of stuff. Like, it comes from my great uncle and my grandfather with their boat business that ultimately spent most of its life out at Lake Eppalock, and where they built boats, engines, various things for racing, and sort of was always exposed to it, and I've always been around it. So
you did end up working for some pretty big names like Perkins Engineering, Ford Performance Racing. What did you enjoy about your time there?
Probably in a lot of ways, the team environment. Like, you work in a big team. It's almost like a sporting team, and it's like everyone has to work together to try and get the results on the track. And if you don't work together, it doesn't work that well. So it's it's all about the development of stuff too. Like, particularly in engines, it's sort of like a never-ending thing. It's not only power and torque and it's an efficiency. It's you're trying to get fuel economy down, and for the to get fuel stops right and all that sort of stuff. And you're always fine tuning stuff. It's a never ending field, and it's such a challenge because you got so many people trying to do the same thing, and everyone's trying to beat each other.
Yeah, I've got to say the delivery on your Aussie racing car behind you does look brilliant. Did you design that yourself?
So the sign shop up here in Newcastle, they do all the deliveries for me. I just sat down with the designer for a few hours, let him do his thing. He sent it back. So no, I kind of tweaked it with him, but that's not my forte. I always say to people, I know what I like, I don't know what I like. So give me something and then we can start from there.
Yeah.
But as far as the hot pink, that's in my business, Nova Air and Electrical business. So it's a good base. It's very bright and eye-catching. So I'm so pumped on it, eh? It's going to stand out on TV. Look great.
Yeah. Well, when they're all battling, because race cars are always red and blue, you'll just see little pink one amongst them all.
Yeah. Hopefully up the front.
Well, yeah, hopefully the one heading into the chicane first, but
yeah. No, I'm not going to get ahead of myself. I'm just going to go out there and just let it come to me. And if I'm at the front by the end of the weekend, then great. If not, the main goal is just to keep it out of the walls and have fun.
Yeah.
Have you had any mentors or?
Yeah, like with any racing, mate, you look up to certain people that do what you do. I looked at a lot of outboard drivers over the years, Steve Thompson, Ian Tricker, a guy named Alan Speedy, who was the guy that sort of got me into the sport. Always had a lot of respect for those guys. And you learn from those guys too. I was probably the annoying young bloke running around looking at their propellers and asking questions, and that's where you learn, so there's always people along the way that help you. I've had, in water ski racing, it's a team sport, so we have skiers and we have an observer and we have a driver. I've been so lucky to have the skiers that I've had. I've had basically my adopted son, Bo Duggan, skiing for me. We won Australian titles with Bo. We won an Australian title with his brother Reese. I've had Gary Butterworth, my observer, for many, many years, and Gary and I just click. We work together well in the boat, and he's just a ripper bloke, knows the game inside out, very calm. It's a bit like a rally car, I suppose. It's probably the only thing you can equate it to. You've got to have that communication between the both of you. We've had Eddie Bosjanjic in the boat, who's a gun observer, very annoying bloke out of the boat, but very good in the boat. Funniest bloke you'll ever race with. So Adam Kahn is another one. So I've had all these wonderful teams around me the whole time, and I've never been the best driver, I've never had the fastest boat, but I think as a team, as a collective, we've always been really strong and really competitive because of the people around me. So it's the old adage, surround yourself with good people, you won't go wrong.
Yeah, definitely.
So this other one behind us, mate, is my dad's Austin 7.
Yeah.
This is a really interesting car because this was actually built by a guy named, you may have heard of, Gary Cooper, who built Elfin racing cars.
Oh, right, yeah.
He started building this particular car early days before he was a car manufacturer as a special. Didn't really like it. It's got an Austin 7 engine and gearbox and diff in it. And there was a 750 Formula class back in those days, it was early 50s. He put the car to the side because he wasn't really happy with the engine. He thought he could do something better. So he actually went and built another car on an Austin 7 chassis. It had a Morris engine in it, some later model running gear, some later model brakes. And he built that car and sent it, and they raced that. And then this little car was sitting in the corner, so they just finished it off. And then it got sold off. I'm not sure of its history straight after that, but it ended up with a couple of South Australian guys, David Davidson, and the Schultz brothers raced it for a long time. Then my dad bought it in 1988, and it's been in our family ever since. So it's 750 cc's. Well, it's actually 803. There's 750 standard. This is out to 803, which is nearly as big as a motorbike engine, almost. But it does have a supercharger on it, and it's it has in the past run 15-second quarter miles. So for a little engine and a very old car, it's actually quite fast.
Yeah, for such a little car.
Yeah, and you're alive. Your eyes are bouncing in your head, and it's all happening. So, and it also holds the record at Mount Tarrangou for the category, and also at Rob Roy and Murnion as well. So it's quite a well-credentialed little car and a lot of fun to drive. So it's great and good to keep it in the family too.
Yeah. So Scott McLaughlin won the championship, like you said. Then it was Scott Pye, Chaz Mostert, Nick Percat, Luke Yilden, Dale Wood, Ashley Walsh, Jeff Emery. You know, the list goes on.
Cam Waters was in there too. Cam was a rookie too, but he dropped out halfway through the year.
So you still bet him?
At the time, the rookies that year was Scotty Pye, who was in the full-blown Triple Eight monster car, which you might remember, and Georgie Medecki. And
he's in there too.
And myself. George, Cam, myself, we had a couple of really good battles throughout the year until Cam dropped out. And obviously Scott was a little bit up the road. He was on rails. I think he finished second in the year in that championship. So it was a tough year. I loved it. I met a lot of good dudes that I'm good mates with now, and it was good racing.
And the good thing about Trans Am and like Aussie racing cars, for an example, even Touring Car Masters, is they're all to a point affordable categories. Obviously they are still very expensive, but if you work on your own car and you prep your own car and you have your own team behind you, you can still make it work at quite a cheap price. Do you agree? Or
yeah, I mean, I don't think anyone would ever call motorsport cheap, because in the reality, it's not cheap. And by the partners I've got on my background here, like I would not be able to go racing without them. There's absolutely no doubt about that. But totally agree with you, mate. You can, some people, I know for a fact there's people that spend 3 to 4 times per round what I'm spending in Trans Am. You can absolutely save some money by doing things yourself or working a little bit harder. And, a lot of guys now are in a fortunate position where they'll just turn up with their helmet, they'll fly to the track, grab their gear bag, jump in the car, away they go. They can do test days and all this sort of stuff, which is great. And if you've got the ability to do it, more power too. But there's also something really satisfying about, squeezing every penny and competing against those sort of guys, knowing that all the blood, sweat and tears that's gone into it, it's pretty satisfying too. So, you can absolutely, the harder you work, I guess the more successful you become, people say, but it is true. You can make things a lot more affordable by doing things yourself.
Sorry, my bad. You've raced at Bathurst multiple times. Have you got any huge highlights from there? Any highs or, unfortunately, any lows?
Yeah, absolutely. Bathurst is a pretty special place, and definitely my highlight was racing last year in the 1000 with Jack LeBrock. I mean, it was pretty special being there on the grid, especially with my family history at the race, being the first third generation racer to do the Bathurst 1000 was pretty special, and there was definitely some tears on the grid. It was a very cool moment. And with anything, when there's highs, there's going to be lows. I've made a couple of mistakes at Bathurst before. Obviously, made a mistake on the I think it was Friday or the Saturday.
Yep.
I think it was Saturday, actually. Practice 5 in the morning in the wet. I just locked that inside wheel going over Skyline and unfortunately had a crash. But we all got it all fixed up, good to go for the race. It's with anything where you're trying your hardest, it's just one little mistake. It's so easy to happen. At the end of the day, everyone's out there doing their best, and without the highs, you can't get the highs without the lows.
Yeah, so I did mention earlier that you were wanting to win the Super 2 Championship this year. Is there anyone, who you think you'll have a really good battle with for the championship fight? Or it could be anyone?
It could be anyone. Obviously, the field's so competitive this year, but if you look after round 1, obviously Zach Best is driving really well at the moment, and same with Cooper Murray and quite a few of those guys at the front there. So it's definitely no easy task, and I'm looking forward to the challenge at the following 5 rounds to get our car to the front and do the best that I can and see where we end up at the end of the year.
Ever been overseas and driven anything?
Actually, sorry, I'll tell a lie. I got to drive a NASCAR at Vegas. It was the Richard Petty experience, and I remember I was with a bunch of Mazda dealers, and and we're in a bus heading in there, and I could see the flat track there, and there's Lamborghinis and Ferraris and McLarens and all this stuff driving around. I'm thinking, I wish I was out there doing that. And then they suited, we had to go through a bit of instruction. They suited us up, and I hadn't raced at that stage. I'd driven the Subaru in track days and whatnot, but suited us up, and we went out there, and I couldn't believe how difficult it was to drive a NASCAR, and we weren't mucking around. I mean, we weren't going the speeds. I think they do 200 mile an hour. I think I got to about can't remember the number, 136 rings a bell. I think it was just under 240 k's an hour. And I was really quite surprised that, it's a lot harder than what it looks.
Yeah. Well, yeah, NASCAR does give the perception just roll off and turn left and get back on the power. But was it harder turning the corner or getting on the power?
The corners weren't bad through the corners. The exit you noticed because the wall just sucked you into it like a big magnet. But I found them hard going straight because I just wanted to keep turning left. So just trying to keep the thing straight was harder than what you think. So yeah, they're just they're not an easy car to drive in my mind.
Yeah. Well, I don't think most of my race cars they're always a little bit out of alignment. So always got a little bit of 5-degree right end down or something.
I think these are running more like feels like about 20 degrees.
Yeah.
Anyway. Yeah. It was good fun though. I really enjoyed the experience, and it was well worth doing. And afterwards, I was actually glad I did that and not drove the flat track cars. I thought it was a really good experience. Something you can't do in Australia really easily either.
Yeah. Well, I mean, obviously, unless they were to resurface Calder Park, which I don't think they've got the budget for, I don't think we'd ever see Oz cars and NAS cars there again.
I doubt it. Yeah, I doubt it. But but hopefully we get to race there at the end of the year on the main circuit as well. It'd be good.
Yeah, it would definitely be great to race something like even the Formula Vs are pretty. I don't know how we would go with all the bumps and stuff. I know the bigger cars might handle it a bit better.
I think I'll be okay. Yeah. My car should be okay, I reckon. But I have just stiffened it, so that might make a difference. But I'll put new shocks in that work better, so who knows? Yeah, we'll have to find out.
I've got to get my suspension running first.
You got a few broken bits, haven't you?
Oh yeah, always. And then today we found out there was some things that had to be changed, but we press on and hopefully we'll get back on track for next round. But I do like the look of this one here, the 1200.
These were designed by an Italian designer for Alfa Romeo.
Oh yeah.
And then Alfa Romeo didn't want it, so they must have just put it out to market, and Mazda grabbed it. So this car, the thing I like about this car is it's the car that put Mazda on the map. So this is the car that really got sales for Mazda in Australia and got them going. So I think they're quite a pretty little car for today. It's a 1967, I think. So for the age of it, quite tall sort of glass house in and thin pillars and very typical of the Italian designs at the time.
It does look very Alfa Romeo Fiat design.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Yeah, but it does obviously have a Mazda touch to it, so it does look brilliant.
I should have cleaned it though. It's a bit filthy at the moment. Well, they all are.
I just noticed on the windscreen over there it says "Wash me, please."
Yeah, that's on the ute. Yeah, someone put that there, but it's only dust. I'll just need to get out and drive them and blow it off. So
2020 didn't happen, and that led into 2021 when racing started to pick up again, and I ran the S5000 for 3 of the Australian Championship rounds.
Yeah, and what sort of tracks did they run out?
When I ran the 5000, round 1 was in Tasmania at Symmons Plains. We then went to Phillip Island and Sandown. After that, they had a round at Sydney, Bathurst, but I didn't do those rounds.
Yeah, they actually don't race them at Bathurst anymore, do they? Because of how dangerous they can be.
Yeah, I guess it would have been cool to see them. I wasn't there or even been one at Bathurst, but I guess they've got their reasons and they're not heading back from what I'm aware this year or next. So we'll see what might change in the future.
And if I'm correct as well, did you do the Bathurst 6 hour as well in 2021?
Yeah, that was an awesome experience. I got to try. Well, I didn't get to finish it, but we were there. We had a shot, and that's probably one of the more memorable weekends I've had at the racetrack.
Yeah, how did that weekend come about? Did you get a last-minute drive, or were you planning it for a while?
I guess it was somewhat last minute because I was racing S5000 and we were meant to be racing, or I was planning on racing the S5000 at Bathurst. There was no way I was going to rock up and learn how to drive Bathurst in this 560 horsepower open wheeler. So it was pretty close to the 6 hour time, close to Easter, and I just started calling. I exhausted my contacts list. I called everyone trying to find a drive. And well, I didn't, it's not like I had a big amount of budget, if any, to go and find a driver. So I was sort of hoping that someone, needed a driver, and managed to get in contact with a gentleman who was managing the team, and they just needed someone that was tall. He's like, if you're tall and you can get there, we'll put you in. So I rocked up at Bathurst having never seen the car and having never driven the track, and sort of went from there.
You did the 6 hour, you did S5000 in 2021. You have driven a few cool cars. Did you have a favorite that you moved on into?
Favorite car I've driven? It would have to be, it'd have to be between, even though the S5000 is pretty cool, it'd have to be between, I drove a Formula Holden once at Winton. So that's basically an old Formula 3000, like an old F2 with a Holden, a locally made engine. And that was, H pattern manual, a lot of aero slick. So sort of gave you a small taste of what driving an F1 would have been like back then. And that was cool. But I'd have to say I got to drive a V12 Vantage GT3, so fully fledged Aston. And yeah, that was mega at Phillip Island, getting to use a bit of aero, and big cars, a lot of power.
Yeah, definitely. If there was anything you would change about your motorsport journey so far, what would it be?
Unlimited budget. I would definitely, like to change that. I guess in terms of like the pathways I've taken and experiences I've had, I probably wouldn't change any of them. Like all the classes I've been a part of and raced were all fantastic, and I guess without doing them I wouldn't have ended up here. But yeah, I think having that enough budget every year to go racing, I definitely would have gone back and promised myself that.
Motorsport can sometimes people disagree with it because it makes you slower, but sometimes it's necessary for your safety.
Yeah, as racers, we're our own worst enemy. I guess you look at the old advertising slogan for Bell helmets. If you've got a $50 head, wear a $50 helmet. But it's something I've seen. I've been on the administration side of Speedway for a bit of time in my life as well. So you see guys, they'll spend thousands of dollars on shocks and on tyres and stuff like that, and then they'll whinge about spending $1,000 on a helmet that's going to keep them alive. So we, like I say, we're our own worst enemy. Yeah.
Well, one thing, even we're very budget as we race.
Yep.
But one thing we didn't go cheap on was my safety devices.
Yep.
It's just something that you need because you don't want to be in the scenario and need it and not have it.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess in simple terms, you can only go so fast in a wheelchair as well.
But we've established a lot with safety, and moving forward, you've had your fair share of experiences in the race car. Do you have a favourite moment? While racing?
I just generally enjoy the camaraderie of in Speedway. I suppose it comes part of. I grew up around Speedway, and the families that were involved, we all sort of. It's a bit of a cliche, but it becomes your external family. So it's not just at Speedway. You find you end up spending time. 9 times out of 10, especially if you're on a local track scenario, you spend a lot of time sort of helping each other out, building cars, fixing cars, sign writing cars, whatever you do. The social side of it is probably something that I really enjoy. especially as I get older. I don't mind a beer. So a bit of a sausage and a beer afterwards to catch up and talk a bit of crap and shoulda, woulda, coulda, all those sorts of things. So we've all got a story. So to me, it's I've enjoyed being down here in Victoria. So not having a local track, so we're a travelling class around Victoria. So enjoy going to the different tracks and stuff like that. Whereas where I come from, travelling to another track was a 500k or 1000k time to sort of get there. Like there's big distance between. But the whole environment is what I enjoy.
By the racing bug, and the first time you jumped in a race car, what did you feel like?
I loved it. Like the first time I jumped in a car, it was more about learning something new. Like I was just a kid. Like I'd gone from riding push bikes to school to jumping in a car and learning how to change gears and whatnot, and the rest is history, really. And then once you learn how to drive a car, and then the competition part, the competitiveness, like that, it's kind of like a drug, mate. Once you get a taste of that, there's no going back.
Yeah, definitely. And what do you like most about the Clio? Because Renault's a pretty good car brand.
Well, if you asked me this, say 10 years ago, I'd say nothing. I've never dreamed of owning a Renault, racing a Clio. Like I said to Ayrton, the car was given to me at the start.
Yeah.
When all this unfolded, I pretty much told my mate, look, I'll get it ready. I'll sell it and, give you the money so you can enjoy your holiday a bit more. I did a test day in it and thought, wow, this car has a lot of potential. And I guess the biggest thing I love about the Clio is it is very low maintenance. Like running standard like driveline. Literally every race meeting, change the oil, do the basics, and that's it. I love that part about it. And it's super reliable, apart from that timing belt on an engine which was unknown. And and it turns heads. Like every single time I've taken that car to an event, it's finished. I could probably almost tell you on the podium every single time I ran it. Like it's an unbelievable car, and it surprises a lot of people, and it's pretty enjoyable. Just watching people's faces, like, wow, this car shouldn't be doing this, but it does it. Like that. I guess that's my favorite part.
Well, maybe the drivers got a secret talent.
Oh, I don't know about that, mate. Maybe.
When you were younger, when did you start getting hands-on? Because I know for me, I started at about 10 years old, and I felt like that was early for me.
Yeah, so it was probably 2009, 2010. So my father did a season in 2010 in Formula V. We ran fourth in that championship. Missed a round because we went to an event at Phillip Island that year. So probably around that period. And just as time's gone on, you get more and more involved, and you learn more by hanging around the right people. And it's still going.
Yeah, and obviously people might not know if they're watching this, but you have a lot of involvement in historic racing cars. What cars do you usually run with?
So in historic racing, we've done a little bit. So was at Phillip Island this year at the big historic meeting there, running Formula Ford. So car that was campaigned by Paul Stockel in the Driver to Europe Championship back in the 90s. So that's been restored back to how Paul ran it. And now, we ran to Phillip Island, ran that at Symonds Plains a couple of weeks ago. And a bit of other stuff. Historic Formula 2 car, a bit of involvement with. We've taken that to Phillip Island, Malar, up to Queensland. So yeah, it's actually quite an exciting form of motorsport.
Yeah.
See how the older cars are
What is
presented.
the most challenging aspect of racing in APRA, and how do you overcome it?
One of the most challenging aspects is, like most one make series, all the cars are the same, so it's very hard to sort of make a gap, get a position, all that sort of stuff, because the bloke in front of you is effectively running the same stuff.
Yeah.
So you've got to find, little improvements in yourself, in your driving, all that sort of stuff. So, yeah, it's just good, close, tight racing.
Yeah. I'm one for winning. But if I have a good battle with someone, even if I'm the loser of it, I'll go and shake their hand and say good race, because
100%.
Because even though I'm out there and I'm a kid and I want to win, it's still good if you can have a good, respectful, clean battle with someone, and both cars come home in one piece.
That's it. That's what it's all about. I always say to people, like, "Oh, you drive race cars?" I'm like, "Yeah, but people play footy, they play cricket. This is what we do. It's just a little bit more expensive and can be a little bit more dangerous, but you've still got to be respectful out there, and you don't want to go driving into people and have panels hanging off, and it's not what we're about. You're out there to drive a race car, not to drive into people."
Yeah, we're not in XLs.
You said it, not me.
No, I'm just kidding around. But it is it's a bit of a category where they like to dint panels.
Yes.
So yeah.
I reckon I know a couple of people that drive XLs. I've heard that.
Yeah. Every second car sponsored by a panel smasher.
Yeah, and a wreckers.
Well, yeah, you've obviously got quite a story with your boats, and you say you've gone back 40 years plus. But as a grassroots racer, we've all got, like we've mentioned, challenges and stuff. But what are some key lessons that you have learnt throughout your career?
I suppose there's no shortcuts. If you shortcut, it'll just hurt you down the track. So I was pretty big on the preparation, because it's quite any sort of form of motorsport's quite expensive. So
yeah,
I can't see the point in taking a shortcut in your preparation to go away to a meeting and not get through that meeting through shortcutting on the way through. So, and when I say shortcutting, you don't have to. Doesn't mean you've got to buy the most expensive bits, or it's more just the preparation and the time. You just got to put the time in and know your piece of machinery, whatever it is you're racing. If you do the work on it yourself and learn about it, like I'm a carpenter, wooden fingers, not that mechanical, but over the journey, I've learned quite a bit. And in the end, while the Nankervis boys did a hell of a lot of work on my boat, especially engine builds and that sort of thing, but I really did all the maintenance on the thing and in the end, you get to know it, so you learn what it's telling you, what's going on. So I think that the biggest thing is preparation is the key to anything, and get a good team of people around you. So good suppliers, good mates to help out on weekends. Obviously, you need family support. You can't do any form of motorsport without the family support. That's where it starts, and then it grows from there.
Yeah, definitely. And, Rowan Nankervis, he would also agree preparation's one of his biggest things as well. He says when you go racing, the biggest, I guess, stepping stone that helps you is being prepared.
Oh, 100%. Absolutely. You just can't beat it. You shortcut it and you just won't finish the event, and then you get frustrated and a bit demoralised. And it's not just you. When you're racing a team event, it's not... We're not circuit racing with one person in the boat. There's your observer and a couple of skiers and then your crew. So everybody wants to compete and compete well and do well. So just don't shortcut it.
Yeah, and especially if you've got your mates and family involved around, you want to make sure that you're not endangering anyone else, because it's it's a crucial thing to make sure that I'm ready to go out there and risk it, but you don't want anyone else to have an incident.
No. to finish first you must finish. You know, it's the best saying in motorsport, and everyone's heard it, but it's the truest thing. So that's what it's all about.
Yeah. Are you one of the guys who is a really good qualifier, so you're always starting up the front, or do you find yourself not very good at qualifying and do you making up positions in the race?
So, like in Speedway, it's all about track position and where you start in the heat. So if you start out of 5 and you've got like all the good cars, you know, you're not gonna blitz past them, and you have to probably finish 5th or 6th. So you know you're gonna have a struggle night, and if you had a pole in the first race, you know it's gonna go on for a good night, and you're probably in the top 3. We in the wingless category mainly we get like 38 nominations to 40 nominations for a state series, and I go over to Victoria a lot to do the Summer Slam and do all those big shows over there. And I did it 2 years ago, and there was 75 nominations in the wingless category, so it's pretty elbows up. I finished at Simpson. I ran a 5th and a 3rd, and it put me out of 10th in the B. So it's pretty close in points, and with a lot of cars, it's pretty fun.
Have you got anything that you want to try in the future, speedway wise or even asphalt wise?
410 non-wing. That's what I want to do. That's in America. They're on so it's 950 horsepower, which the sprint cars run, and minus the downforce, so that'd be pretty nuts, I reckon.
For the New Zealand Grand Prix.
Or a midget.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. Obviously meeting someone like Liam Lawson would be pretty cool, and I at a guess he'd be quite an inspiration to your generation of drivers in New Zealand because of what he's been able to achieve, and the fact that he's so close to getting to Formula One. If one person slips up, he could potentially be the next New Zealand driver to be in Formula One after Brendan Hartley, I believe.
Yeah, that's the one.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it's pretty good because he's in age quite close to our generation, and everyone sort of just follows in his footsteps in a way.
Yeah, and for someone like yourself, what would be your future goals in racing? Would you want to come over to Australia and race here, or do you just want to see where you go in New Zealand, maybe even overseas?
Yeah, that's been up for debate quite a lot recently, looking at how well some of these drivers in 86s are doing and that sort of thing, especially with the prize money and all that sort of thing that Toyota's come up with for their drivers. To be fair, we've looked at a lot of options, and for the moment, we're just going to stick with Formula Ford in New Zealand before eventually progressing to something like Formula Regional or Formula Open, which is a new series sort of starting up in New Zealand. And from there, I aim to go onto the road to Indy ran in the USA before chasing my ultimate goal of IndyCar.
Yeah, that's a pretty good goal. IndyCar is definitely one of the pinnacle of motorsports, especially in America. You know, it's got a huge fan base over there, so it'd be great to see someone like yourself competing for wins in the Indy 500. And I had just a quick question for you. Your Formula 3, do you run that with your dad and your family, or do you run under a team?
No, that's correct. Yeah, all family run. So run it out of our house, like our home shed. So everything gets done all at home. And yeah, we don't have any. We have help with data and a bit of setup from Gilmore Racing. So they're really, really good. Like they make a massive difference. So that last weekend at Tailem Bend, because we don't do the data, we don't have the data, and we don't really have anyone that knows how to read the data as such. Not having them there really hurt. Like not hurt, but made it very hard because the Formula 3, they're so fast and technical. You got to be on your game with your driving aspect. So I know at Sydney, it pulled up in a data. I had no idea I was even doing it, but I was touching the brake pedal in a straight line at like 0.5% or something. Had no idea. But at the end of the straight, I was losing like half a tenth. So just little things like that. But yeah, we're all do it ourselves. So Dad got a mechanic, Pete, that also helps, and then actually our neighbour, he comes and spins spanners on it as well. Mainly Dad does all the work himself. I tend not to touch it because I'm got a mechanic and mine have a rock, so I don't touch it. But yeah, Dad does everything pretty much.
And to all the people who are racing this weekend, remember, drive fast and take chances safely, of course.